All right, welcome back. It's Stephen Howell here, and we're going to dive right into video number 2, how to get more consistent and better quality leads in your real estate investing business. A survey that I sent out just a couple of weeks back, this was the number one most important, biggest hurdle and biggest issue that people are having in their real estate business is how to get better leads and more consistent leads and to have a system of doing it. So this is part 2 of a 4-part free training series that I'm doing to kind of kick off my new blog, productivewisdom.com, and my new coaching and mentoring site, stephenhowellmentoring.com. And what I did is a couple months back, I surveyed all of my valued email subscribers, all of my customers, all of my students, to find out exactly how I can help better serve you, what issues you're having, particularly in your business. What other courses, programs have you been through? What did you like, dislike? What's keeping you up at night? What's keeping you from getting results in your real estate business? And what do you need the most help with? So video number 1, if you have not seen that, definitely was a great lesson. The format today is going to be a little different. I wanted to keep it super informal. So I have my nice handy dandy Word document on your screen. So as you can see, we're getting super technical here with my Word document. And I want to take you through about 6 things that is going to help you get a better handle on generating better leads and more quality leads in your business. And then I'm going to give you some specific homework. So this is not going to be just a listening thing. This is definitely going to be a thing that if you do it, if you take action, the whole goal is to get you better results and to get those leads starting to pour into your business. So for your real estate investing business, for your wholesaling business, obviously generating leads is a huge part. For us to get houses under contract, for us to do deals, we need to have leads in the first place. And whether you've been at this for a little while or you're just getting started, in the beginning, it can feel like this is one of the hardest parts of the business. In reality, generating leads is one of the easiest parts. It's okay, once we generate them, how do we filter through them? That can be more challenging, but we're going to save that for another time, and that too can also be handled very well. But today, this is the focus because this is one of the biggest issues that you're having in your business is generating better quality leads, and I want to help you to get a handle on it today. So I hope you can appreciate the informal format that we have here. Definitely let me know your thoughts and feedback on it because I just want to get right into it for you. So if you have not seen video number 1, which is all about talking with people, even if you're an introvert, even if that's not your natural skill set, definitely go back to video number 1 of this 4-part series because this stuff builds upon one another, okay? And the whole goal with this series is to help you get a little bit further down the line, is to help you to get a little bit better results. And I want you to realize that it's possible for you personally to go out there and get your very first deal or your very next deal done within the next 30, 60, 90 days. So at the time of this recording, we're still at the middle part of November, and it's very possible for you to get a deal done by Christmas or the very first part of the year. So I want to help you get dialed in and to get focused so that you can get some better results, okay? All right, so if you haven't done so already, I invite you to go ahead and eliminate any and all distractions, silence your phone, shut down social media, get something to write with because I do have some homework for you. I do have some specific action steps for you to take this week that's going to make this a reality for you. So let's dive into thing number 1. We're going to talk about 6 things and then I'm going to give you some homework. So understand that generating leads is all about talking with people. People need to know about you. They need to know that you exist. You do not need a fancy company set up, a corporation, an LLC, or even a website. I've had many customers, many students get their business moving and go get that first deal or 2 done, get some money in the bank, and then get those things set up. Sure, there's added benefits, and there's also people that I've worked with that have gone and got some of those things set up, and they certainly help. But those things necessarily don't announce to the public that you're in business. So last video number 1, we talked about you talking with people and how important that is of People need to know that you and your business are a solution to their needs. And specifically, we're talking about people who have houses that a lot of times are run down or that need a lot of work, or they're in a situation, whether there's a certain circumstance in their life where they need to be done with this house. They need to move on, and you are a viable solution for the problem that they're going through. But if they don't know about you, how are they going to call you? How are they going to email you? So one of the things for you to generate leads, all the other stuff right now, buyers, title companies, getting deals, money, all these other things, that doesn't matter, okay? What matters is you filling up your email inbox and your cell phone with voicemails and emails of people who want offers on your houses. If you're not making offers, you're not going to get anything under contract. But then you might say, well, Stephen, I can't just make offers. Like, I need people to actually want to sell their house. Well, in order to do that, we must begin marketing. So just understand, building on the last lesson in video number 1, that our foundation is talking with people, is letting people in our area and our target market know that we buy houses, that us and our partners buy houses, that we pay all cash, that we don't need to worry about financing or anything like that, that we buy as is, that we cover all the closing costs, which typically are 2 to 3%. And there's no realtor commissions as well. And a lot of times we can close in 2 or 3 weeks. So those are some of the big points, to get across that are the benefits of what we offer when we're able to buy houses. And don't let any of those things right now confuse you, but just understand that you must have advertising and marketing out in your market so people know that, hey, Joe or Tommy or Steven, who's ever watching this training, that hey, you buy houses in your market, in your area, and hey, Steven is actually somebody that can help me, right? People need to know about you, that you buy houses. So the foundational thing is people need to know about you, right? So building upon that, we go to number 2 here. Decide on your branding in the next week. You can always change this later. So Stephen, what do you mean by this? Decide on branding. So what you want to do is you want to kind of think with the end goal in mind, right? And the end goal, we said, marketing, a big thing in marketing is having people raise their hand and either call you or email you saying, hey, make an offer on my house. I want to get rid of this house. So you want to put yourself in the mind of a person who's going through that. A lot of times they are in a desperate situation, and they're in a situation where they're wondering, well, maybe I can, list this with a realtor, or maybe I can sell it myself, or, where are those we buy house signs that I see all over town? Or maybe I can get in contact with one of those investors, with one of those we buy house guys, and, see what they would offer for my house. So when you're thinking about your branding, this is not saying that you need to go set up an LLC or even a website per se, although you can. This is just like what's going to be on your email tagline, what's going to be on the letters that you're sending out, what's going to be on even maybe your Craigslist advertisements or other advertisements that you're doing. And I want to give a couple examples that I've found that have worked pretty well. Again, these aren't the only ways to do it, but these are a couple of things that are very effective. So one would be more of the city-dominated approach, right? And I'm just making these following examples up here, but just to give you a context of what I'm talking about. So you can be your area or your target market's house buyer. So if you live in, let's just say Charlotte, North Carolina, you could be the Charlotte house buyer, right? You could be Sell Fast Charlotte. You could be, Sell Now Charlotte, or, something that connotates that you're the person to go to in Charlotte to, if I have a house to sell, that I go to you, right? So you're presenting yourself as the solution for your target market, which is huge. Okay, so that's one option, is becoming your city's go-to person, and you can even brand yourself as your state's house buyer or Sell Fast. You want to think of like what the person is going to Google or YouTube and like what they're going to be typing into their computer. Like a lot of times it's sell house fast in your market, or they're typing in we buy houses in your market. Sell house fast, your market. Sell house now, your market. So think about those type of things, and then you can work that in to be the solution for yourself. So even if you're not setting up, We Buy Houses Charlotte as your LLC, which certainly you don't have to, or even your website, you can start branding yourself on all your letters, on all your emails. And then if you do set up a website, I would check to see if that domain's available. So that way, when you begin your marketing efforts, when we're out there and we're advertising and we're promoting, everything lines up and it's congruent. That's very important. So the second option that I've seen work very well is the more personal approach. And this works really well for some sellers because they're a little turned off by the big, they're intimidated by a big company. If you say, hey, I'm with We Buy Houses Charlotte, and you're presenting yourself as a larger company, you're going to have a certain segment of the population, a certain segment of sellers that you're marketing to that are going to be a little turned off by that. And that's okay because, in marketing, you cannot please everyone. And if you decide that you're trying to please everyone, you're going to most likely please no one, and you're going to kind of shoot yourself in the foot. So just realize that in marketing, you're not going to please everyone, nor should you try to. You want to come up with the best strategy possible and, what really resonates with you, and you want to stick to that, and you want to run with that. And the truth is, when you decide on the branding of your business, I've seen all sorts of things work. But I'm going to give you 3 examples of, what I've seen work very well time and time again. And there's a reason why these things work. And, as I'm explaining this, you can kind of see that. As we're presenting ourselves as the solution. So the whole, if you're branding yourself as your state's house buyer or your target market or your city's house buyer, people automatically, without even knowing you, on some level, they're like, well, I guess, since he's, he or she is We Buy Houses Charlotte, maybe he's a solution or she's a solution for me. So automatically you're kind of throwing your hat in the ring there and saying, hey, I'm a solution. But as I was saying, the second option is the whole personal approach. So it's more of like, hey, Joe buys houses, or I'm Thomas Investments, or something like that. The more personal approach. Hey, Joe buys houses, Becky buys houses, and you're just like, hey, I'm Joe around the corner. It's me and a couple partners. I'm just kind of a mom and pop shop, and I'm interested in making an offer on your house. And this definitely helps with, from the sellers that are a little bit more intimidated, like I said, with going with a big company. And then the third approach that I've seen work very, very well is, especially if you're more of like the a people person, more of the storyteller, and you really like to paint pictures and bond with people and tell them funny stories or just stories in general. I've seen things work very well, like maybe there's a certain vacation location that you love, or there is a place you went on your honeymoon, or something that's like a term that's really important to you and your family, or whatever. And I've seen people say, hey, I'm, Waikiki Investments or something like that, and you tell them, hey, I'm passionate about traveling to Hawaii. That's where my wife and I went on our honeymoon. And so, as I was getting into this real estate world, blah, 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 this was really important to me. So, my company is Waikiki Investments, or whatever, and you have a little story behind that, and it's more of that personal approach. So those are kind of like the 3 templates or models that you can think about. And again, I would definitely check and see if the domain's available, a .com. Definitely don't do a .net or .org or anything else. .com is what you want. But don't even get hung up on the website, because I've just seen too many people getting ready to get ready. And I've seen people out there spend thousands of dollars, believe it or not, on LLCs or website who go on to do nothing because they've taken too long to try to get everything perfect. where I've seen other people not even have $100 to their name, and they just get going. They call themselves We Buy Houses Charlotte, for example, or Sell House Fast Charlotte, and they just put that on the top of their letterhead. They don't even have a company set up yet, but that's kind of like their branding they want to go with, or maybe they go with WeBuyHousesCharlotte.com or whatever. And they just run with that, and then after they do a couple deals, maybe then they get a website, or then they get an LLC. So what I want you to do this week, within the next week, and this is something I will warn you that can, really clog up your thinking for a while, and sometimes it does take some thought. So I don't want you to spend too long on this, but I want you to think through how you want to present yourself and your business to your target market at large. So, kind of pretend as you're out there talking with people, kind of play the movie forward in your mind. You're going to be networking. You're going to be talking with people. You're going to be sending this over via email. This is going to be on your letters. How do you want to present yourself? Do you want to be the blah, blah, blah house buyer? Do you want to be, Trinity Investment, blah, blah, blah? Do you want to be, Hawaii Kiki Investments, or such and such renovations, or such and such rehab group? Or, do you want to be Joe Buys Houses, or Joe Buys Ugly Houses, or, something else, maybe something that connotates to your something that's personal to you, right? Just think through, like, you're going to maybe have this on a business card or a flyer or an advertisement. So how do you want to present yourself to the market at large? And then just take the next 7 days, the next week, to really think through this. And what's important is we can start from day one, and we can keep things very congruent. And people remember marketing. People remember branding. Think about all the Christmas commercials, the Super Bowl commercials, the jingle to certain, songs or companies. We remember a little bit of branding and a little bit of marketing. It's natural to us. So how can you brand your business in your area while keeping things very simple? So that, my friend, is thing number 2. And so before we go too far into this, I think branding is just such an important thing to think about before you go crazy with your marketing. You can't always change your branding later. So don't let this stop you. But it's important, if you can, to really decide on this up front and say, hey, at least for a little while, this is what I'm running with. I'm not going to complicate things. I'm going to keep it simple, and I'm just going to rock, and go forward with this thing. So I want to help you to make that decision. All right, so thing number 3, if you have not seen the Real Truth training, this is the #1 lead source in my business, exposed and described in detail. So what I want you to do is simply go over to productivewisdom.com. And if you have not subscribed anywhere on my blog, you can subscribe right here where it says Get Access Now. Or you can actually go inside of my blog and subscribe over here to my 10-day free video bootcamp. So when you subscribe to my blog, no matter where you subscribe, you're going to get access to this Real Truth training. And I'm going to show you just what it looks like. But in detail in this training, I go into a secret lead source that I have learned over 6 years ago. And it's still to this day the #1 lead source in my business. It's the #1 lead source in my students' business. And for those of you who are like, I really want to focus on a niche that's a little bit different and a little bit the opposite of what everybody else is doing, you're going to absolutely love this, okay? So it's called a free training, The Real Truth About Generating Leads and Doing Deals in Real Estate. So this is something that I learned 6 years ago. One of my mentors who I learned this from had been doing it for 10 years straight, making over $500,000. So this stuff is not a strategy that's like here today and gone tomorrow. And I also don't want you to think that, hey, Steven, this is just a one-trick pony type thing. This is not the only thing to do, but if I had to start all over, this is the #1 lead source I would build my entire business around, and then I would mix in a couple of other things. So I don't want to be redundant on this training, but I want to help you to get really, really good at a couple things in marketing. Rather than be a jack of all trades and master of nothing, I'd rather you master 1 or 2 things really, really well. And that's when we start to get some headway and some results in our business, right? So I want you to go ahead and subscribe to my blog if you haven't, and definitely go through this training. And then to follow up the training, I have a 10-day implementation boot camp to kind of let you know exactly how I go about doing this. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and kind of break the silence. The number one lead source in my business is probates, okay? Most people do probates wrong. They don't do it the right way, and they don't do it thoroughly enough. A lot of people either think it takes too long to generate the leads, or they think like people aren't ready to sell these inherited houses. And I don't want to like clog up this whole video with exactly how to do probates. I want you to go watch that video. Even if maybe you've seen a little bit of training around this before, I want you to go back and watch this video because I've added a few new things to it. And it's really, really powerful if you do probates, because these people, these are great leads. You know, we deal with a lot of houses that have, 100% equity. The house is free and clear. It's dropped in their lap. A lot of times they live out of town, out of state. They don't need an extra house, and they're willing to sell it for a discount, okay? What most people do is they maybe send one letter to probates, and then they're too afraid to call the attorney of the estate or email the attorney or to call the executor. And in my 10-day boot camp, I tell you exactly how to do those things. And the real magic is consistency. When you stay consistent and you get access to these leads and you call them, you mail them letters to the executor of the estate, and you mail letters to the attorney of the estate, then you follow that up with a quick little one-line email to the attorney. And we're very friendly. We're not aggressive, but we're very direct about how, we're interested in possibly buying, that house. And, we're not needy, we're not desperate, but we're just planting lots of seeds. And it's really powerful, the relationships that we can develop with these attorneys and with the executors, even if they're not ready to sell right now, but a handful of them are. And this is kind of one of the secrets how I average these larger spread deals, $12,000, $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 deals, is because I'm going after leads that not a lot of other people are going after. A lot of people are too busy, going to these seminars, going to all these trainings, trying to play in the postcard world where they're just simply not doing enough volume. And, when you really do probates very thoroughly, it's a powerful lead source. Now, some people get a little tripped up generating the leads and finding access to the leads at the courthouse. What I will say is to split this up and to ask questions and just understand where there's a will, there's a way. And in my 10-day implementation boot camp, I tell you how to go, access the leads. And sometimes you can get them online, but there's always more information down at the courthouse. But even if it's a little tricky, and sometimes you go down to the courthouse, you have to go to a couple different departments, you have to ask some questions. And even if you have to go to your local investor group and seek out a knowledgeable investor, it's worth sticking through this and figuring out, because most people don't have it in them to, as soon as they meet the first little bit of resistance, they quit and they say, oh, that probate stuff is too hard. But if you stick through it and you figure this out once and for all, and I'm going to tell you a little bit later how to give yourself, a couple weeks, give yourself a couple visits to the courthouse. This is the difference potentially in you doing multiple $10,000 deals every month and just doing strategies that everybody else is doing. It's really, really powerful and important. So don't let any little resistance stop you. For those of you who are my customers, who are my students, you obviously have access to a ton more training and all the little problems and issues that we've ran into over the years and how to overcome those things. But even if you're not, I've had many, many people go through my 10-day boot camp, get probates as a pillar to their business, and go on to do multiple $10,000 deals. And I just want you to understand that it's possible for you. One tip that I'll give you in regards to that as well is if you do go down to the courthouse, try not to overwhelm yourself. Understand that you're learning a new skill. So you might want to put your investigator hat on and kind of think of it like that. And really build relationships with the clerks there. Notice if you can see anyone else copying down records, maybe with an iPad or a laptop or a notebook, and see if you can build a relationship and ask questions and have that hunger and that curiosity, but also sincerity. And if you have to split it up into a couple of visits, don't try to walk away with 100 probate records your first time, or you're going to get overwhelmed. I'd rather you go down there and get access to a couple of files and just kind of pay attention to like what's in the files. And in the implementation bootcamp, I tell you exactly the information that you need to look for. But the first time it's just helpful pulling a couple records and just flipping through each page, or if it's like an internal kiosk, clicking through each area and just familiarizing yourself with patterns and like, oh, okay, this is where the estate name is, and this is where the property address is, and this is where the attorney info is. And even if you're still at a sticking point, because some courthouses are different than one another, I would ask questions. I would keep seeking. I would be persistent. And I've worked with students for years on this, and every single time, if you are consistent and persistent, you will get access to these records. And it's not nearly as hard as you might think in your mind, but you have to decide up front that you're going to work through any little issues that come up. And these leads are absolutely worth it. And even if you have to go to like a local meetup group and find somebody savvy in your area that's been doing it for a while to kind of give you a little tip on probates, it's really powerful to do that and just to keep seeking and keep seeking. And even if it takes a couple months, or a couple weeks rather, not months, it should take you no more than 2 or 3 weeks to get this set up. It's a very powerful, and once you figure it out, it's easy to stick with. So simply go to that Real Truth training, watch that video, and I explain exactly how to do this. I show you exactly what some of the letters look like, and then you're also going to get access to a full 10-day boot camp of how to implement this, and that's going to get you going, generating much more quality of leads in your business, okay? So thing number 4 is I want you to pick 2 other forms of marketing. So what I've found working with people over the last few years is that a nice sweet spot in your business is doing probate, like you'll learn in that training, and also picking 2 other forms of marketing to generate, because probate might take you a week or 2 or 3 weeks to get rocking and rolling. Sometimes it helps to have those a couple other forms of marketing that's going to produce what I call some right now leads. This can be guerrilla marketing, this can be paid marketing. And a couple things that I would have you consider is I would factor in your natural skill sets. What are you naturally good at? What is your personality like? Are you more of a networker, a people person? Are you better at writing? Maybe then you can focus more on writing ads. How much time do you have is a big thing. Whether we're driving for dollars or we're putting out bandit signs or simply networking, or if we're doing more of a leveraged activity, it's going to depend on your time and your budget and your personality. So I want you to think through a couple of those things. So what I'm going to do now is mention a couple things for you, and I'm not going to go into huge detail for the sake of time on this training on these. More importantly, I want you to decide, it's going to entail you making a big decision, right, that requires you to kind of put your butt on the line a little bit about what marketing you want to do. And then what we want to do is over the course of the next few weeks and months, we want to really, really focus on becoming a master of that thing. The biggest part of the battle is deciding what we're going to do and eliminating everything else. So I see one of the biggest issues, and I know this was true for me, was hearing a strategy and then trying it maybe 2 or 3 weeks, maybe a month, with all good intentions, with everything I had in me. And then after a little bit of not getting results in it, or maybe some lukewarm or mild results, I would think, well, maybe this strategy doesn't work. And then I'd hear a podcast or a YouTube training or something else, and I'd say, you know what, I could see that working. And then I'd try that strategy. And I was trying so many different things. And we can only focus on so many things at one time. And a lot of times before we can actually overcome some obstacles and then make a few corrections and then get a little bit better and get a little bit better and tweak things, we hop to something else. So more than half the battle is saying, you know what, for the next 3 months, for the next 6 months, for the next year, I'm going to make a decision and I'm going to put my butt on the line and I'm going to become the best person in my area at doing blank, blank, blank for marketing, at doing whatever that thing is. Nobody's going to be better than me. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to read things about it, and I'm going to focus on these 2 things. So my friend, maybe your thing is bandit signs. I've had some students where they have the time and the energy and the commitment to doing bandit signs, and that's been their, one of their biggest lead generators, right? And their area and their market responds really, really well to bandit signs. So that's like one of the number 1 things that they do. Maybe your thing is Craigslist ads, and your area responds really well to Craigslist ads, and you say, you know what, I need kind of a free marketing strategy, so I'm going to write a really powerful Craigslist ad. In fact, I'm going to write 5 different variations. Maybe one of the variations is more of a mass market we buy houses ad. Maybe I'm going to do another ad that's specifically and only for tired landlords. They have a bunch of rental properties and they have a couple they need to get rid of. Maybe I'm going to write another ad for people who are relocating across the country and who need to sell their house that needs some repairs and they don't want to list it with a realtor. Maybe I'm going to do another ad that again is for probate. That's for people who have inherited a house. So that's when I write the title of my ad, when I write the body, I'm going to write a compelling title. I'm going to learn how to become better at writing. I'm going to tell a little story in the ad, and I'm going to give a very strong, powerful call to action and tell them exactly what I want them to do and how I can help them. And, again, maybe you brand yourself as the blank blank house buyer, or you have a little story behind it and you have them go to your website or call you or email you. So you get really good at writing Craigslist ads. And I've had, many students get their deals from Craigslist ads. And the things that I'm telling you are not, certainly not the only things that I teach. I just want to help give you a couple ideas, and I want to help you to make a decision of, hey, these are 2 areas you can focus on. Definitely one of your things, as we talked about in the last video, should be networking, should be talking with people, should be asking for a referral every single day in your business. Telling people that you and your partners buy houses, and do you know of anyone that's looking to sell their house quickly for a little bit of a discount? We're buying houses, we're looking for more. I'm looking for some eyes and ears around town. So networking should be a huge thing. Maybe your thing is making a YouTube video, a short little video about, hey, sell your house quickly here in Charlotte. Here's a few things you need to think about. Check out my website below. And, I have a couple of free gifts for you, and I'd be happy to make you an offer. So maybe you do little short YouTube videos for what your sellers could be searching for, and you point that back to your website. Maybe your thing is you have a little bit more of a budget, but you have a little bit less time. So you want to put an ad in your local newspaper or your local Yellow Pages, or you want to do Google AdWords for your area, or maybe a Facebook ad for your target market in your area, and you're more okay with doing some paid marketing. So my friend, there's a plethora of things that you can do, but only a couple of things that you should do in the beginning. And I would definitely recommend doing probate plus picking 1 or 2 other things that complement your time, your budget, your personality. And more than anything, it's committing to it for the next 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, committing to mastery, committing at becoming better skilled at that activity, okay? And more importantly is the consistency of which you do it. I've worked with people over the years who have done amazing with Google AdWords, with paid marketing, with letters, with mailers, with postcard drops, with bandit signs, with Craigslist, with networking, all sorts of things. They work, right? But you have to decide and make a decision what's going to work for you. So just remember that if you're not generating leads in your business, you're not in business. So more importantly than anything is getting your branding going, getting your marketing going, and just making a decision which things that you personally are going to focus on and sticking with those consistently. All right, my friends, so I want to help you decide on this training that you personally are going to actually get into business and become a producer instead of just a consumer. If you're anything like myself, or for the many people I've worked with, You may just be starting the cycle, or you may have been on the cycle for a while where you're listening to all sorts of trainers, all sorts of quote unquote gurus, all sorts of trainings and seminars and courses and products and ebooks and all sorts of things. And you may actually, just like myself, you actually may be implementing some of it. You may be out there mixing it up in the real world, trying this strategy, trying that strategy. And for a long time, I was on a thing where I was consuming information and podcasts and all sorts of information, and I would even go the extra step of implementing, of trying something for a couple weeks at a time and then switching to something else. So my friend, I want to invite you right now, if you're stuck on that cycle and you're so tired of sitting at the seminar or sitting on another webinar or web class or course, and you want results in your business, like in the next 30, 60, 90 days, you want to actually be able to go out there and do a large spread deal, a $10,000 or $15,000, $20,000 deal, then you must become a producer of leads, a producer of results, and you really got to get out there talking with people, doing strategic, focused marketing. And my friend, make no mistake about it, less is more. You don't need to be doing more things. You just need to be doing a few things very, very well and very strategically, and it's not as hard as you think. So to touch more on this, I want you to go watch my documentary for more on this. It's an 11-minute video that I had filmed, and this is not to puff me up or to talk about myself or anything, but I want to share with you a little bit more about how I overcame the hump. And a lot of that was making that internal shift. And I had this documentary filmed because I think it's important, and the goal of this is if I can inspire one person, just one person, to make a change in their life and in their mindset, that is the goal. So if you simply go over to my blog, Productive Wisdom, and you click on this About tab, and if you go back, let's see here, you can find it on my blog or this About tab. Or you can even go over to StephenHowellMentoring.com and click on the About Stephen tab, and there's about an 11-minute documentary. And that's a little bit more about, again, who I am and how I overcame that hump. But a lot of it is about how I made that shift of becoming a producer instead of just a consumer of information. Okay? So number 5. How to focus more on your income producing activities. And I want to give you kind of just a small example of like a weekly flow and schedule with kind of what we've been talking about here today. So as far as income producing activities, actually watching a training, actually, going on social media, doing different things, that's not going to put money in your bank account. There are certain actions that are going to produce income. And if you're working a full-time job or a part-time job, or you're busy with family, kids, responsibilities, like I know you probably are, even if you don't have kids, if you're not married, you might have a job, you might have things going on with a local organization or your church or all sorts of different things. So you're probably on some level, you have a specified amount of time that you can dedicate for real estate, and we want to be effective with that time, right? So in the beginning, all those efforts need to be focused on marketing your business. Like I said, people need to know that you exist in your marketing. You have to show up. You have to be there. And so a lot of that is doing that critical thinking in the beginning of, okay, how do I want to present myself to the market? And then it's making a decision on what I'm going to do. And this is what I'm going to actually stick with for the next 6 months. I'm going to do these things, and I'm going to become the best at it. And then it's tracking those marketing activities, right? So for an example, we've been talking today, and I pointed you to another training, the Real Truth training about probate, which is one of my #1 lead sources. So let me give you an example of a weekly workflow. This does not need to take over your life. You can do this part-time. So let's say, for example, on Mondays, you're going down to the courthouse or online to the county courthouse website, and you're pulling that week's worth of probate leads. And let's say, in the beginning, that might take you a couple of hours, and you have 2 or 3 hours after work or before work to go do that. So that's your Monday activity, right? So Tuesday, let's say you get 20 or 25 estates in your local county or within a couple of counties, and you now have 25 probate leads that you can market to. So Tuesday, we're going to go ahead and mail out your probate letters, which you're going to learn how to do in the envelopes and the letters in the 10-day boot camp when you go subscribe to my blog, productivewisdom.com. So let's say you go ahead and you get out those letters on Tuesday, and you mail those letters. And then we're also going to take about an hour or so and call through those executors, the executors of the estate, and have a conversation to see if the property that was inherited, if it's actually for sale. Or maybe it's not. Maybe they're wanting to list it with a realtor. They're wanting to live in the property, or whatever the case may be. We're not pushy. We're not extra aggressive or anything like that. We're just interested in possibly making an offer. So we leave very energetic, passionate voicemails with each of the executors, or we talk with them live on the phone. And the way that, I teach to go about that, it can be very short and sweet. So we're leaving a lot of voicemails. We're having a few conversations. We're, circling who we talked with, who we need to follow up with, who we didn't. And that's Tuesday's activities. So we sit down for, whether it's an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and we're basically stuffing letters, putting stamps on them, and putting them in the mail. We're taking action. We're being productive, right? And that goes along with the theme of my blog and my brand here, productive wisdom. And we gain wisdom when we fail and we tweak and we implement. But the key thing is we have to be moving. We have to be taking action. We have to be going somewhere. So that's Tuesday's activities. We're calling the probate executors, and we're sending out letters, and we're tracking actually how many voicemails did we leave, how many people did we talk to live, and how many letters did we send. Okay, now Wednesday comes. What are we doing? What can we do with our time? And this is in the example of probate, but you can break this down and apply it to other forms of marketing when you identify what's the actual productive action that I need to take. So in this example, Wednesdays, we're going to call the attorneys. We're going to sit down for an hour, and we're going to call each attorney for these probate cases, for the 20 or 25 cases. Again, leaving lots of voicemails, talking with a few people, being very proactive, very confident, short and sweet conversations, very respectful on the situations where it's not the best fit. We're planting little seeds of hey, I'd love to be a great resource for you. I know it's not going to work out in every situation, but me and a few partners, we do buy houses here in the area. If it's the right situation, if you happen to be an attorney for another estate that does need to sell, maybe it needs a lot of work, or it's kind of a diamond in the rough, I'm not just going to submit a lowball offer. We do our due diligence each and every time, and I'd love to be able to come in and help on those certain situations where the situation warrants that. Here's my information. Here's my contact info. Blah, blah, blah. So we're having short, sweet, powerful conversations, and even planting seeds where where that maybe particular lead doesn't work out, right? And so that can be done. You can go through 20 of those attorney calls within an hour or two, depending on if you have longer conversations, but I like to keep it very short and very sweet. So then Thursday, what are we doing Thursday? We have maybe an hour or two after work. We're simply playing, a follow-up. So we're circling back with the people on Tuesday and Wednesday that we left voicemails to try them one more time. Maybe this time we leave a little bit longer of a voicemail, and we say, hey, here's a little bit about how I could potentially help you. I did drop you a letter in the mail. Didn't know if you got that, blah, blah, blah. And we follow up just in a little bit different way. Then what we could do is maybe we could circle back and drop a little one-line email to the attorneys to see if that estate has property for sale. And then the rest of Thursday and Friday, we're playing a little bit of follow-up, but now we're going to switch gears from probate, and we're going to focus on those one or two other things that we're going to do for marketing. So let's just say your thing, because maybe you have a lower marketing budget, you want to do really good quality Craigslist ads, and you've decided that you're going to become the Craigslist ad master. You're always going to have a powerful Craigslist ad pointing back to your website, pointing to your cell phone, pointing to your email. You're going to really work on your copywriting skills. You're going to maybe read a couple books on copywriting. You're going to study how to write compelling headlines. You're going to study how to write a good quality body to the ad. And maybe you decide, I want to have 5 or 7 quality quick Craigslist ads that I'm always rotating. And each ad is going to be to a different segment of my audience who, might be going through a stressful situation and need to sell a property, right? So you have an ad for tired landlords. You have an ad for inherited properties. You have an ad for people who are relocating, in different categories, right? And then you start experimenting with posting them at different times. And maybe you run one ad and you repost it a couple times a week for 2 or 3 weeks. Then you swap it out with another ad. So maybe Thursday, your 1 or 2 hour work segment that you have to focus on an income producing activity, your goal that week is to write 1 quality Craigslist ad, and you have 2 hours to do that. You sit down with a blank piece of paper and you write that ad. It's not going to be perfect. We can improve it over time, but you're moving. And then you're also tracking that, right? And let's say Friday, your other method of advertising is bandit signs. You're going to put out 50 or 25 or however many you can We Buy Houses Cash bandit signs and your phone number. And my friend, those still work. I have students that get deals all the time from those bandit signs. And you decide, you know what? I can't afford that in my budget. It is something I can do. I don't necessarily want to do it, but I know it's going to produce some right now leads in my business. And there's a very good chance if I keep doing them consistently, I'm going to build contacts, I'm going to build buyers, and I'm also going to get a couple of deals from these signs. And then I can reinvest some of that into other marketing. So maybe Friday you put out your bandit signs and you put out 25 or 50. So that's what I'm talking about with the income producing activities. It's not about working 12 hours a day. It's not about, doing all these grandiose things, but it's identifying. And part of the reason we don't want to identify is because it kind of puts our butt on the line a little bit. And none of us want to look like, foolish or, like we don't know what we're doing or anything like that. But my friend, just realize that less is more. And by delaying that decision, by not making a decision, you're making a decision, if that makes sense. So really look at your time, your budget, your personality, and what you want to commit to for marketing. Maybe for you, it's Google AdWords, and you start Googling We Buy Houses Charlotte and all the different terms, and you start kind of spying on what competitors are doing for Google AdWords or maybe for their YouTube videos. And then you can start to model them. Use the concept of modeling to work in your favor, right? If they're doing it consistently and over, and you see the same bandit signs, the same Craigslist ads, the same Google AdWords advertisements on Google, a lot of times, if you see them for months and months and months, they're doing it because it works, right? So kind of think about that. Like I said, maybe you want to do a local newspaper ad. So you look at your local classified or your local yellow pages and you find an ad and you're like, man, this ad's been running for like a year. I've seen this before. And maybe you want to try, you have a little bit more of a budget and you want to price that out, right? But don't forget what we talked about in video 1. Even if you have no budget at all, you can begin talking to one person a day, whether you're getting coffee, if you're at a restaurant, and you can ask them, you can let them know that you buy houses in your market, you and a couple partners. Do you know of anybody that needs to sell? You'd be happy to come in, you and your partners, pay cash, close quickly. You're looking for some extra eyes and ears around town. So the big thing with this is identifying what you're doing, and then it's to get really busy. And it's to not get busy for the sake of busy, but it's to get busy producing, right? Talking with people. And it does take that momentum in the beginning. It takes that first 30, 60, 90 days, sometimes even a little bit more, to really get that momentum and to get that boulder moving. And sometimes in the beginning, it feels like it's not going to move. But when you stick with it, consistency compounds over and over, and it gets really, really powerful, my friend. And so I want you to really have that shift. And then I want you to set a goal of how many people you're going to talk to each day. And I want you to start this week. I want you to start failing faster, because that's where the wisdom piece kicks in. We have to be very, very productive, proactive, effective. And then we gain wisdom when we fail, because we're not going to forget when we look foolish, but we're going to learn. And a lot of times we stay behind our computer screen, we stay in our chair because we don't want to go out there and look foolish, or because we haven't made the decision of what we're going to focus on. So set a goal, my friend, of how many people you're going to talk to each day and in each week in your business, and commit to that. So just to kind of put that in perspective, and I'm talking about all of your marketing there, okay? So there's an investor. This particular person isn't a student of mine, but I've heard them say before that their kind of magical number, right, was getting to the point where they were talking to 30 to 40 people per day. And this person is doing multiple deals per month. And so this person was saying that in the beginning, they didn't have a huge marketing budget, but they were willing to talk to anyone and everyone about their business. So what they would do is simply start going on all the for sale by owner websites, driving for dollars, and also driving not for sale by owner signs, but for rent signs, and looking up all the for rent ads and just contacting these people, knowing that, hey, if they have a for rent ad, they're probably a landlord, right? Because they have at least one rental property, but they might have more. And that's a very good segment of not only buyers that can buy our wholesale investment deals, but also some of those landlords. They have a couple of pesky problem rental properties they might want to get a hold of. So I remember this person saying that, in the beginning, they were calling Zillow, things on Zillow, they were calling for sale by owners for rent, and they would not stop that day until they picked up the phone and talked to 30 or 40 people. And they just said it wasn't too long after doing that to where they did their first $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 deal, and then boom, now they had money for marketing. Now they had money to do some of the things that they didn't want to do in the beginning. So what I want to tell you, my friend, is just set a goal. And so I've given you some things and some free training around probate investing, right? So, and you think about that example of how I laid out the income producing activities. If Tuesday you're calling 20 executors, Wednesday you're calling 20 attorneys, plus you're emailing them, plus you're following up with them on maybe, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday for all the people you talk to. Well, guess what? Next week, now you're calling that week's worth of leads plus the previous week's worth of leads. Then the next week number 3, you're calling that week plus week 2 plus week 1. So the compound effect, the power of consistency, it really adds up. And then you start playing phone tag. So then your Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, you're making lots of follow-up calls. Now, in my example previously, you're putting out 25 or 50 bandit signs. You're getting lots of calls coming in from those, and you're calling those people back. You're getting very good at writing Craigslist ads, so now you're calling a lot of those people back, right? And then also, you're just so hungry. You're calling for sale by owners. You're calling for rent ads. You're calling people on Zillow. You're going to local meetup groups. You're talking with people. Maybe you have Google AdWords and YouTube videos. But the biggest thing is you become this machine. You become an absolute warrior. When you sit down, you have 2 hours to make this happen. You are productive. You are a producer. You are a marketer. You are advertising your business. And the leads, after a very short while, if you get really focused, you can have leads pouring into your business in 2, 3, 4 weeks, if not sooner. And you always won't have to work that hard, but if you're willing to pay your dues, if you're willing to put in that effort, which everyone almost tries to avoid, right? Everyone tries to avoid that hard work in the beginning of really playing full tilt, of really playing all out. If you'll do it and you'll really stick consistent with it, no matter what it takes, you will start getting your inbox and your voicemail flooding with leads. And then you can shift in your business to becoming, okay, I need to get better at talking with people. I need to get better at converting those leads. I need to find out how to go on my appointments better and how to make better offers. But in the beginning, you got to get to the point where you're producing leads. So my friend, I have some homework. I want to transition here into some action steps. So I have, let's see, about 7 or 8 action steps for you to take in the next couple of days and weeks. So this week, I want you to decide on your branding. How are you going to brand your business? Are you going to be the We Buy Houses business? Are you going to be Joe Buys Houses? Are you going to be Hawaii Kiki Investments or Renovations? How are you going to brand your business? Go ahead, put that on your business card, put that in your email. Register a domain name if you are able to. Make that your Gmail or your email address that you can put on information. Start branding your business. Start getting the word out that that Joe buys houses, right? I want you to watch the Real Truth training and really get probate leads rolling for yourself. Commit to it no matter what, that you're going to finally get probates rolling for your business by the end of the month. I want you to decide and pick 2 other forms of marketing, whether it's free marketing or paid marketing, and I want you to really make a decision that whatever these 2 things are, come hell or high water, you are going to become the best. You are going to become a seeker. You are going to learn how to do these things. You're going to take personal responsibility for learning how to do these 2 forms of marketing, and even if you suck at the beginning, you're going to get better in time, and it's the right thing to do. You know that less is more. You know that doing 12 different things is never going to work, and you're finally going to decide on a couple of things that really feel right to you, and you're going to stick with it. And my friend, if you'll simply do that, you will get results. So just stick with this, okay? I want you to set up your action tracking. When I finally had this epiphany and this shift where I was going to become a producer, which I talk about in my documentary video, which, by the way, is one of your homework assignments to check that out because I want this to become crystal clear for you. I just made a simple Excel spreadsheet, and I tracked how many phone calls I was making, how many voicemails, how many signs I was putting out, how many letters I was sending, how many verbal offers, how many appointments, how many contracts, like the big actions in my business. I set a daily goal, and then I set a weekly goal. And I would say to start very small so you can build that confidence, and each week creep up the goal just a little bit. If you try to come blazing out of the gates, you're probably going to set yourself up for failure. So hit that goal and just be more focused on week in, week out consistency than big impressive numbers week number 1 or number 2. And you'll find if you're doing the right marketing activities, you're sending those letters, you're putting out those signs, you're making those 30 calls every day, you're working up towards it, and you start to fill that spreadsheet with numbers, you will find after 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, even if it takes 12 weeks, my friend, we're talking about changing your financial future in 90 days, right? 3 months. Sometimes, we work half of our lives in a job that we hate, right? So are you willing to commit, a month to 3 months to 6 months to learning some new skills to change your life is the question you really want to ask. And when you stick to that consistently and you're doing those producing activities, you will notice like, oh my goodness, I'm flooding with leads. Okay, now that's the business I got to focus on, how to convert these leads. And then you start getting some progress there, and then boom, before we know it, we're doing deals and we're making things happen. But it's a matter of your focus. You have to really segment your focus at first on a couple of things instead of everything, right? And that's where a lot of us get it wrong, and that's okay. But that's what I'm here for, to help you with this training. Also, when you subscribe to my blog, productivewisdom.com, not only are you going to get access to that Real Truth training where I go into a deep dive on probates and then I give you a 10-day boot camp to implement it, but I also recently recorded a 10 Deadly Mistakes training, and these are basically 10 of the biggest pitfalls that I've experienced, that my students have experienced, working with people over the years. And basically, these are the things you really want to avoid that keep people stuck for a long time. And this is just sharing wisdom with you that I believe is really going to help you, okay? So I want you to watch that training because it's going to help you avoid a lot of mistakes. And then what I want you to do, my friend, is while you're kind of getting this probate stuff set up, while you're deciding on your branding and your other 2 forms of marketing, set a date, maybe 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, 1 week from now, when you are going to kick off your marketing and when you're tracking those activities, however many calls a day, however many calls a week, that's the week where it matters. Where like you are, from that day on, you were tracking everything you're doing as far as your production. You are tracking your production and you're going to stick to it come hell or high water. So pick that marketing kickoff date. And I'd recommend, putting it out like a week or two, giving yourself some actual real time to think through these things, to make some critical decisions and to get this thing going for yourself for real. Okay. And then, as we talked about in last week's training, I want you to start talking with people every day about your business. Even if it's one person, I want you to tell them what you do and ask for a referral, ask for a lead. Learn how to come up with that 20 or 30-second elevator pitch that's your personality, that's cool, that's not terribly aggressive, that basically, tells people a little bit what you do, and you ask for a lead, you ask for a referral, and we have a lot of value in that as well, right? So, that is your homework for this week. And then I want to end by giving you a book recommendation. This is a book that you must have if you are in real estate or any type of a business. It's one of the best business books that's kind of under the radar, but it's so important because it will keep your business alive, okay? And it really helps you to get focused. And that is The Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes. And even if you're, not some extrovert, salesy type person, don't let the title scare you. Don't let the word sales scare you. Sometimes we have a negative connotation with that word. No, you can be a good person. You can be exactly who you are, and you can have integrity. But this book is going to help keep your business afloat and alive. So I want you to read it within the next 14 days. And that is my homework for you. Stay tuned for video number 3. We're going to get hot and heavy with video 3. Actually, when we get deals under contract, how in the world are we going to get to the closing table and actually get paid? And then we're going to end with video 4 after that, where we talk about time. There's never enough time, and how do we go about utilizing our time to make this stuff happen. So my friend, Stephen Howell signing off here. I hope you got a lot of value out of this video. It's been my pleasure to record this, and I'll see you in the next training.